my name is Dorian and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be the second in my YouTube series, Media Munchies. If you haven't watched the first video from January 2021, I will go ahead and link it down below and feel free to check that out before you watch this one. Basically what I'm going to be doing is going through the different types of media that I have consumed over the past month for February of 2021. I'll be discussing them and then I will be rating them on a 5-star scale. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first book I read last month was Lore by Alexandra Bracken, and this book was so good. It also had an amazing audiobook, so if you're not really feeling like delving into a book to actually read it at the moment, or if you just love a good audiobook, I highly recommend the one for Lore. Lore is based in our world in New York City, but there's this competition every 7 years called the Gong, which is when 9 gods are sent to Earth and made mortal, and they're hunted by descendants of ancient heroes. So Lore escaped that life of being part of the Gong and being in a hunter family when something tragic struck her, and she's been hiding ever since. But then when a wounded Athena comes to her seeking help and she's reunited with an old friend who she thought to be dead, things take a turn for the worst. While reading this book, I really enjoyed the characters, especially Miles and Val. They were definitely 2 of my favorites. I really love the feminist perspective that Alex took. It was very refreshing and uplifting to me. In this book, there were so many different cliffhangers, some of which I had guessed along the way, but others I had no idea what was coming, and they came at the end of almost every single chapter, so that's what kept me reading it and wanting more, and it was so well done. All of the twists and turns were slipped in there very nicely, and they had readers on this continual roller coaster throughout the entire thing. I was very satisfied with the ending to this book. I didn't know exactly how Alex was going to end it because it's a standalone instead of a series, but she left it very open-ended as well as tied up, so although it is a standalone, I definitely think that Alex could go back and write more stories in this world, or even a continuation of Lore's story. I personally would like to see a prequel story or like a first Gone story. I think that would be amazing. So out of 5 stars, I gave Lore 5. The first TV show that I watched for the month of February was Peaky Blinders, and I actually finished the entire first season in one weekend, and then I'm almost done with the second season. I still have to watch the season finale, but I've been so caught up with school right now and work that I haven't had the time. But I enjoyed this show so much because it's a very in-depth, attention to detail, action-packed, slow-burning love story that if you're not really into that kind of thing, I wouldn't recommend it to you. But if you really like 1920s based in England with gangs, then I highly recommend this series because it's very well done. I will say that the first season was definitely better than the second, but that does not mean in any way that the second season was awful. It was still very good. There were just a few things here and there that didn't mesh as well together as in the first season, and I'm still waiting to see how they end the second season, so it'll be interesting if they leave us on a cliffhanger like they did with the first or not. Because it's an in-depth and an attention to detail show, that just makes the action sequences worth the wait tenfold, and the plot is very solid. It's very well put together, especially in the first season. I found myself questioning things a bit more with the second season, like why certain things were happening, why certain people were acting a certain way, because I felt that maybe it was a little bit underdeveloped or they didn't go into enough detail with those points in the second season. But other than that, I would say that they're on the same level with the drama and the action and the love. I honestly can't believe it took me this long to start Peaky Blinders. So for season 1, I gave it 5 stars, and for season 2, I gave it 4.5. The first movie that I watched last month was Extraction, which is on Netflix, and it was very good, but it was a little bit long. Some things could have been taken out. There was a lot of action in it, but the action kind of took away from the actual story I found. And so I think if they had dialed it down a little bit on the action sequences and upped it a little bit more on explaining things, it would have been better in my mind. Although I will say that I enjoyed the action scenes a lot, and it felt like I was in one of the Modern Warfare video games or something. It was very enjoyable for me. I did end up guessing a lot of what was gonna happen, and I was watching it with my parents, and I would call something and they'd be like, "Have you seen this before?" And I'd say, "No, I saw that coming. I knew it was gonna happen." The ending left me very satisfied, and if you have seen it, you know why. But that's all I'm gonna say about the movie Extraction, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. As you can see, there's a pattern with me this month regarding consuming media that features gangs in it and is based in the 1920s. This book is basically a Romeo and Juliet meets 1920s Shanghai story, but I went into this not knowing the complete synopsis, so when stuff started going downhill, I was not expecting it at all, and I didn't really know what the entire story was going to entail, but I really enjoyed it and I thought it was a great book. I'm pretty sure that it was Chloe Gong's debut novel, or at least her young adult debut novel, and I think it's definitely up there on my favorite debuts. It was dramatic, it was deep, it had slow burning love, it was action-packed, and it actually had a mystery component, which I wasn't expecting either. When I was getting close to finishing it, I thought it was going to be a standalone, but it turns out that it's a duology, which I'm very happy about because I couldn't get enough of Chloe Gong's world and I really want to get back into it once the second novel comes out. I really enjoyed the characters, Roma, Juliet, Kathleen, Benedict, and Marshall, and I also enjoyed the feminist perspective that this book took as well. This book was very unique and enjoyable, and it also had a great audiobook, so if you're looking for a great audiobook, I recommend Lores as well as These Violent Delights. Out of 5 stars, I gave this book 5. The next TV show that I watched last month was I finished Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It took me about 2 months to finish this show, and unfortunately, I really did not enjoy the last season. I know that it was kind of thrown at them that they weren't going to be renewed for any more seasons after this one, so I think that they were just rushing to tie everything up and to give us a strong last season, but it really just fell flat in my opinion, and the entire time I was watching it, I was only feeling one word, and that was meh. I didn't know really what else to think of it. I thought that everyone's acting styles were very strange, and the story was just like the previous seasons, although there were little things here and there that were different. The ending sort of left me satisfied. I'm gonna talk about a spoiler, so I'm gonna put a red dot in the corner down below, so while that's there, just go ahead and mute if you haven't watched the final season, but if you have, feel free to listen, and once the red dot goes away, you can unmute it. So I knew going into this season that Sabrina was probably gonna have to die, because if she didn't, then I don't think they would have been able to tie it up very well as they did. I feel like if they didn't kill her off, they wouldn't have been able to end the series, because Sabrina gets into so much trouble and she's the reason that all of the season's events take place and are set in motion. So I think leaving her alive wouldn't have been the best choice, so I think killing her off was a good idea. I was a little sad that Nick killed himself to be with her, but I was also kind of happy because I shipped Nick and Sabrina from the very beginning, and I was glad that in the end they got to be together. All in all, I gave the 4th season of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina 3 stars. The last movie that I watched this month was A Star is Born, and I know I'm very late to the game here, but I had to watch this for my screencraft class for college, so I wanted to pick something that I hadn't seen before and that I heard was very good, so I chose A Star is Born, and it did not disappoint. This movie was very enjoyable for me because I liked the approach it took to achieving fame and the toll that it takes on celebrities. While it did take a light approach at first, it did end up taking on a lot of deep topics, which I wasn't really expecting at first, but I'm glad that it delved into those and didn't keep everything light and airy, and being a celebrity is great, because I think we all deep down inside know that it's not as great as it seems, and there's ups and downs, and it's just as horrible as it is enjoyable. I did get a little sick and tired of the concert scenes and the music scenes. I just thought that there were too many, and they could have used that time to go into the story a little bit deeper and take us deeper into the characters' lives. I enjoyed the cinematography. I thought it was done very well, and the ending did leave me satisfied, although it was very heartbreaking. So all in all, I gave A Star is Born 4 stars. Alright everybody, that's all I have for today. If you liked this video, please smack a thumbs up and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books, seen any of these TV shows, or watched any of these movies, and what your thoughts and feelings were on them. I know that I didn't consume as much media this past month as I did in January, and that's just because, as I said, school and work are both picking up, and I barely have time to squeeze in reading or TV watching. So my goal for March is again to read at least 2 books and to watch a few series and movies that have recently been released and are going to be released. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you next time.